You've started over before. You have the journal that lasted 9 days, the gym membership that you're still paying for even though you haven't used it since March, the 5 a.m. alarm clock that you reset every single morning so that you can become the fourth different version of yourself. And yet, somewhere around that third or fourth restart, a quiet thought begins to show up for you. Maybe, just maybe, it's not the plan, but it's actually me. See, that thought is closer to the truth than most people want to actually realize, just not in the way that you may think. Most people are convinced that they are stuck because they don't know enough. And so they misdiagnose themselves. They think, if I find the right book or watch the right videos or just discover the perfect routine that actually works for somebody like me, then everything will finally click. So you keep collecting another book, another podcast post, another saved post that you'll eventually get to. But here's the part that nobody wants to hear. Most people already know more than enough. You know that you should move your body. You know what overspending feels like before you even pay the tab. You know the relationship isn't going to work out long before you say it out loud. Because knowledge was never the missing piece. It just feels like the easiest one to add. So you have to ask yourself, if it's not the knowledge, then what actually is it? Why is it that you know and you're still not doing it? Because here's the part where it stops being simple. Most people assume that behavior follows logic. Learn the right thing, do the right thing, right? Sounds simple enough. But if that were true, nobody would stay in a relationship knowing good and well that it's not working. Nobody would check their bank account balance and then spend more than they have less than an hour later. Nobody would eat the one thing that makes them feel awful, being fully aware that it is in fact going to make them feel awful. And yet, most people on most days do just that, which means something other than information is steering this. Whether it be emotion, identity, fear, you believing what you secretly think you deserve, or you believing that something is not possible for someone like you. See, this is the layer that books cannot reach because it was never about a knowledge problem. The problem is something that most people don't name or refuse to name. And this is the part that most people get wrong about themselves. They assume that the issue is motivation or discipline or just simply loving themselves enough. And the truth is, it's usually none of these things. The truth is, it's usually self-trust. Because think about it. Every promise that you've made to yourself, I'm going to lose the weight, I'm going to save the money, I'm going to start the business, I'm going to leave that relationship, I'm going to leave that toxic job, I'm going to read the book, stop the habit, start the habit, just simply send an email. Yep. And then for some of those, you do not actually ever do. Not once, not twice, not a few times, sometimes it's even a dozen. And then at some point, the problem quietly stops being about discipline. It becomes credibility. Somewhere in there, you became that friend who always says, yes, girl, I'll be there. Yes, I'm going to show up. And then they don't. Except the friend in this scenario is you. You're the one that stopped believing you. That's just what happens to trust after enough promises are broken. And whether it happens between two people or just between you, yourself, and you. Now, here's the part that most people want to skip straight past, because you don't rebuild trust with a speech. You don't rebuild it by feeling motivated for just a weekend. You rebuild it in the same way that you rebuild it with anybody else who consistently lets you down, with proof. Small, repeated, undeniable proof. Not the big giant promises, not that I'm completely transforming myself overnight or starting on Wednesday. No, something almost embarrassingly small. You get up, you make your bed, you drink a glass of water like you said that you would. You send the email, and then you keep doing it. Because that one thing doesn't change anything on its own. It changes something else. That part of you that's quietly keeping score. Because confidence isn't something that you think your way into. It's evidence that you collect. You don't become someone who follows through by simply thinking that you're going to follow through. You become that person by actually following through. One time and then another, and then again and again and again, until enough times that your mind stops bracing for you to leave. That's the part. That is the part that you have to actually become. So no, the goal is not to wake up one day and be this flawless, finished version of yourself. And simply chasing that is just another way of avoiding the small stuff that actually matters. Because the goal is for you to get a little closer to the person that you are trying to become. This week, and the next week, and then the week after, and the week after, until one day quietly, without an announcement, you notice that you don't have to try to do it anymore. You realize that you are actually that person. And if you were to look back and reflect on a moment where it specifically happened, there won't be one, because no book did it, no podcast did it, and no 3 a.m. YouTube binge session did it. What happened is that you then allowed yourself to make 1,000 small, unseen decisions every single day. Which means the version of you that you are waiting on isn't going to come from somewhere else. Nobody's coming to build that life for you. It's already being built with that one kept promise that you consistently do day after day, week after week, until you're no longer trying.